Good afternoon, Atlanta. Welcome to WCEG Network. We are the WCEG Talk Radio. We are Veterans Today. We are here to empower the worldwide community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and we are live on YouTube at WCEG Network. I'm Herman Anderson.
And I'm Anthony C. Aiken.
Gustavo Julio.
And guess what, guys? The three amigos are back. And today I'm excited because we have a very close friend of mine for many, many years.
I'm very, very excited.
Not only are close friends, we're line brothers with Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and we served together in the military around the world. And we're talking about Wallace Larry Jones. How you doing, Wallace?
Doing just fantastic, outstanding, and exuberating today.
I tell you what, that's that good Tuskegee Institute Uncle Booker's training.
Yes, sir.
But we have him in the studio today, and we're just excited because not only is he a veteran, and he's a businessman, and he's a philanthropist, and he does quite a few things that we're going to talk about. And today is his day. So we want the world to know that Larry Wallace Jones will be with us. Larry, tell us a little bit about you, and we can get into this.
Okay, then, no problem. Wallace Larry Jones. You should have learned that when we was on land.
I knew I didn't get enough wood.
Okay, Wallace Larry Jones. Let me say first, I am delighted to be here. I have listened to the podcasts and stuff while I was living over in the Dominican Republic, but never thought I would have the chance to be here. So this opportunity is very good, and always to talk about the veterans, which is near and dear to my heart. Essentially, Aiken asked me about my upbringing. I'm from Thomasville, Georgia. Down south near Tallahassee, Florida, we have the Heisman Trophy winner who's from there, the first black to graduate from the West Point, Henry O. Flipper.
That's right, the Flipper.
General Alston is from there. And of course, probably the most famous person.
No, don't go there.
I am from there.
I thought you were going to go there.
But essentially, just your southern upbringing, single family home, being influenced, of course, by the mother, high school, Douglas High School. I'm going to throw a
shameless plug. Shameless plug.
Right, I know. But enjoyed my upbringing real nice. And I think my mother is the one who really impacted me on being all that I could be, and also realizing that anything is within reach if you try and work hard enough.
So, and we're going to keep it flowing, but just to let the audience know, you also got three Greeks in the house, three Omegas.
Three Omegas in the house, yep. Savannah State, Tuskegee. And we have our good friend Gustavo.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
From the DR, and guess what? Wallace currently lives in the DR, Dominican Republic. So
he's chilling and willing over there.
Chilling and willing, yeah,
absolutely,
man.
Absolutely.
But I tell you what, you said you went to Tuskegee, and we know that, but what got you into the military there at Tuskegee?
Essentially, when I was growing up, I had an uncle who was in the Air Force, and I always admired him. And I was living with him 1 year up in Limestone, Maine, and something struck me. I was seeing all of the individuals of color with stripes on their arm. And I saw the other individuals with bars on their shoulders. Well, I thought my uncle was the best thing since apple pie, so I thought he outranked the people with the bars on their shoulders. And so I never forget, one day we were at the PX, and I asked him, I said, why is it that all of the blacks have the stripes and the other individuals, they have bars? And he explained it to me. And the one thing that he said to me, 7th grade, he said, you can have bars on your shoulders too.
That's right.
But you're going to have to work. 7th grade, and that stood in my mind for the entire time. In high school, I was one of those individuals that if you tell me I can't do it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And so my counselor told me I wasn't college material, so I did all my stuff and entered Tuskegee, but primarily because of the Air Force ROTC program. And my goal was to become an officer.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I asked my uncle, at least I told him, I said, now when I become an officer, I want you to salute me. My uncle say, no problem.
Yeah.
And I'm essentially, as you know, went through Tuskegee up at the University of Michigan on the exchange program, ROTC program there. And finally, I received my commission in the Air Force in 1972. A lot of people ask, well, why do you become a pilot? They thought, they wanted to say something big, like I always wanted to be a pilot, da-da-da-da. No, that's not the truth. I became a pilot because when we were selecting career fields, they told me I can get $50 extra if I flew. The real reason why
if you became a pilot,
if I became a pilot, got into the pilot program, I had never flown. Never been around an aircraft, but they told me if I entered the pilot program, I would get $50 extra. So I raised my hand and said, I tried. Yeah. And so I graduated, went to pilot training. Now, understand, I went to rotary wing pilot training first. So my first year was with the Army. Rotary wing, graduated. And then my first assignment was Edwards Air Force Base Test Pilot School. Went out there, enjoyed it, flying the rotary wing, got a chance to see some of your future astronauts, work with them. It was exciting. So that is essentially how I got into the Air Force itself, how I began to fly. And let me say that had it not been for the military, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today. Exciting, gave me all type of experience and opportunity in the military itself.
Wait, I'm sorry.
We've had quite a few veterans on here that are our age, and they all say the same thing, is that the military experience and opportunity, particularly in the time we were living in, if it wasn't for that, we could be one of the guys back on the streets.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I tell everybody, it was somewhat of a culture shock for me. Air Force, I think at that time the Air Force, they had only 5% of their officers were, 2% of their officers were black. 0.5% were pilots. 0.01% was what we call dual rated, i.e. rated in rotary wing and fixed wing.
Fixed wings.
And I was one of those in that 0.1%. But essentially flew helicopters, Edwards Air Force Base, and went to Ramstein, Germany. And I completed my tour, but I elevated from co-pilot, aircraft commander, instructor pilot to the flight examiner. We were in charge of all of the DV support, the president, vice president, senators who were in Europe. So that was a prestigious job, and even better to be the flight examiner.
The VIP wing.
Absolutely.
And you avoided Vietnam, right?
I avoided Vietnam. They had me a little brainwashed. I volunteered. I didn't know any better at the time, but I didn't get to go because all the training. And so by the time I finished pilot training, and the war itself was torn down. And once you finish pilot training, you get a chance to select the aircraft depending on your rating in the class. And so I chose an aircraft that took me to California.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, you know, many of our listeners, I can tell you, having known him for a number of years, when he came to Tuskegee, he was a little, I guess you would say, not tooting his horn, but I know that he was a school student council president. Mm-hmm. He was a captain of your high school football team. Mm-hmm. So when you came to Tuskegee, you had some pretty good history behind you. Mm-hmm. And I also knew of you being a very, very good student. So I can see, listening to you today, and Gustavo and Herman can hear it, your aptitude, your intelligence, the training that you received at Tuskegee prepared you for those types of challenging assignments where they were very, very small numbers.
Absolutely.
You know, so I salute you on that, because I know what you had to go through, you know, to do that. But, you know, you served a number of years, and then when you got out of the military, you did something else. Why don't you let our listeners know what you did right after you got out of the military?
Right. Essentially, as I said, I flew on rotary first, and then after 5 years, converted over to what we call fixed wing. And fixed wing, I flew C-130s, aircraft commander with the C-130s. And believe it or not, after 12 years, the Air Force told me I had to work. And I said, no, I don't want to work here. So we parted ways. Yeah. And once we parted ways, I started flying for the airlines.
And what airline was that?
That was Southern Air.
Southern Air, right.
Long time ago, flew for Southern Air for about 4 years. Very exciting. We had roots in Africa, so I had a chance to work in Africa, Europe, all over the world. And again, aviation gave me that opportunity to do those things. So I flew for the airlines for about 4 years, had a car accident. So I had to revert back to working a regular job. And so I did, and this is how I got into the substance abuse field.
Right.
Again, stumbling into the field itself, in the sense that I thought you only had to tell substance abusers, don't drink, don't drug, and you can go home. So anybody,
not quite like that.
Not quite like that. I think anybody out there who's involved in drug treatment understand what I'm saying. It is a challenging field. And not only is it a challenging field, it's more challenging now as we service our veterans who have returned back from various encounters with drug problems, with mental health problems, PTSD, anxiety disorder, depression, etc. Yeah. So it's a challenging field, but made more challenging because of that special group of individuals. I progressed again through the ranks, and finally I owned my own drug treatment center. What I saw during that time was the lack of effective treatment. Now, understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying no treatment. I'm talking about effective treatment,
yes.
Because people did not understand our veterans. Veterans are what we call individuals who are duly diagnosed co-occurrent disorders. We had mental health issues, and we had substance abuse issues, and the field was definitely not ready. So what happened to our veterans? We placed them in jails, we placed them in prisons, they went homeless, and it was very sad to see that situation after serving. But again, the country did not understand what was going on, so it was sort of place them on the back burner.
You know, that's very interesting, because Herman and Gustavo could attest to that. That's something that we always talk about, veteran courts, veteran treatment courts, and then the courts that deal with the mental health aspect. They're dealing with, you know, individuals that may have some type of felony issue, but this veteran court will give them the opportunity to go through a process anywhere from 18 to 24 months that once they're completed, that particular felony issue would be dropped off, etc. So what do you see as one of the major issues right now with veterans in regards to substance abuses? Any particular type of abuse that they're, centering on, or what?
Right. My concern now, as I look at the veterans, and maybe it's just something personal, my own opinion, but we do not provide the appropriate financial support for the various programs. We do not provide the appropriate support financially to assist them in getting back on their feet. We talk about the amount of money that is provided, but believe me, the amount of money that is provided is nowhere near what is needed. Call me. People out there who know me know how I talk, and if I offend anybody, I do apologize in advance. But we do not take care of our veterans like we should.
That's one thing that since we've been doing this show, Veterans Today, we emphasize that the budget, the portion of the budget that goes to take care of veterans versus the portion of the budget that goes to do other things. Mm-hmm. No, the military has no problem getting you to. It's a volunteer army now. Mm-hmm. They'll get you to volunteer, spend your time. There's also the side effects of being a veteran.
Absolutely.
Which could be physical or mental, but it pretty much, when you come back, all the VAs and the program that you're talking about is not sufficiently staffed.
They don't really. It used to be that they used to treat the symptoms and not necessarily the causes.
Absolutely.
And the actual root of the problem. Mm-hmm. At the time, when we were coming from Vietnam, mm-hmm. Soldiers came with drug problems, with alcoholism, and all that other stuff. And it was mainly because it was a symptom of PTSD. One of the symptoms of one of the situations mm-hmm. that they encountered in Vietnam, as a result of that, a whole bunch of soldiers became alcoholics, and they ended up, like he said, on the streets because people, the system did not understand what they were dealing with.
That's true. And before we move on, you're listening to WCEG Network, the WCEG Talk Radio, your worldwide community empowerment group. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. You can call in and join the conversation at 678-619-1402. You can also watch us live on YouTube at WCEG Network.
Let me ask you this question. We all know the effects of what happened with the veterans coming back from Vietnam. Gustavo just eloquently just talked about that, PTSD, all those kind of things. But since Vietnam, we have so many veterans that are younger now. They've served in Iran, Iraq, Grenada, Panama, all these places where we've had some campaign, Desert Storm, Desert Shield. They're getting younger. So with the younger type military person, male and female, what do you see as some of the major issues that they're facing going into a VA system that we all know is broken? And it's really not prepared very well for them. What are you seeing out there?
Well, I think number one is access, advertising, letting them know exactly what is available. I'm quite sure some people will say, well, yes, we do provide that services, but again, what I am saying is that we do not provide those services on a larger scale. A lot of our young people are in rural areas now, and they don't have access to VA, etc. a lot of our young people now, we're dealing with a different group. When the Vietnam War was there, you did not have a choice. You were drafted, and here we're talking about an individual who volunteer.
Correct.
But if we look at the structure of those who volunteer, they're not from the upper class. They're from the lower class, and this is a means of escaping. And now we get in to escape, so there are certain skills that we do not have. We may be antisocial, or we may be in there just for the money. Also, as most of the veterans know, when we were back during Vietnam, you gave an order, and guess what? It was done. You didn't say, well, why do I have to do it, etc. And so we have the little group today with an attitude, and I may be wrong, but entitlement to some degree on the questioning. I think the traumatic experiences back in Vietnam, we lost a lot of people. Now, due to more medical breakthroughs, etc., they are living. So now you have a 22-year-old who's a triple amputee and not obtaining the services that they need through the VA.
Correct.
And not knowing. I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to use myself. And a lot of people may not know this, but I think it's important that I mention it. When I released from the military, I had financial stability. I had all this good stuff, but I had not been trained to reintegrate into society.
Right.
Yeah.
I had no idea how to reintegrate to society. The first 4 or 5 jobs I lost. Why? Because I was telling the employees to do something, and they were saying why, and I'm saying, what you mean why? I told you. I still had the military mentality and the mindset. I could not adjust. I found myself one day in my home. I had gone to the corner. I had sat down, and I went into a deep depression right here in Atlanta. In that deep depression, I'll never forget, I contemplated suicide at that stage of the game. Suicide was actually going to be a friend. It was an outlet, etc. And I thought about it, but I did not know about the programs, if they had the programs with the VA. So I did not seek help. Plus the stigma that was associated. We have the people, our individual PTSD, depression, etc. Now I got through that. Excuse me. Okay, I got through that, and the reason I got through it because if I committed suicide, my mother was going to bring me back to life
And kill you.
and kill me again. Yeah, so I was more afraid of her.
You were more afraid of her bringing you back and killing you again.
And for those who may know my mother, she's not living now, but she would have no problem digging me up, bringing me back alive, and giving me a whipping and then killing me herself.
Yeah.
Right, so I say, okay, that's not an option. That's not an option.
That's definitely not an option.
But I got through it. But what I thought about, what about those people who did not have the financial resources or the willpower to do certain things? And we lose a lot of our veterans through suicide.
Correct.
Yes.
Days, and it's on the increase.
It is that it's on the increase, and it hasn't changed in about 3 years. And the VA attempt a lot of things, but what you just went through is the generation of veterans today. Because I have a veteran organization, and I have people that call at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning dealing with those issues that you're talking about, and some of them has been at the VA, but they have been so disorderly, they told them they couldn't come back. So,
That's right.
So there are a lot of issues that are there that we want to help our veterans, and we need the resources to do that.
Yeah.
And that's why I was saying go back to resources in order to assist them. And regardless of what we're getting now, what the budget is now, you can probably triple or quadruple. I've always had the mindset that veterans should have carte blanche when they are coming back from wars, and also to support them, because you're talking about your limbs. And I usually ask people, what's the price of your limb? How much will you sell your leg for, or your arm? And of course, it's the same answer: no way.
Exactly.
And
Believe it or not, there is a price. They have a list of how much you should receive for a leg, for an arm, for both legs, for both arms. I could not believe that they had stipulated how much money you would receive if you lost a leg, if you lost and it is outrageous to think that insurance companies have that kind of, stipulations. And one of the things that I wanted to say is that when the guys were coming back from Vietnam, the system did not have in mind mental health care. Today, we have a little bit more awareness about mental health for those guys that are coming back. But it's not necessarily that it's a lot what they have in mind. Right. It's the awareness is out there, but it's not the resources, like we were saying, are not as they should be for those people that are coming back.
Right. Well, not only the resources, with the VA being the largest healthcare system in these United States, we find that, unfortunately, there is no set structure in regards to how do we deal with veterans, male or female, and what are some of the issues that we need to center in on. Look how many years it took the VA to accept the Agent Orange situation. Look how many years it took the VA to finally give the hepatitis C pill free to veterans. Look how many years it's taken the VA to recognize that veterans are committing suicides every day. But yet, there's incompetence in the VA system. There are individuals in the VA system that don't care. And what I'm saying to our listeners out there, these are facts. Go online in your particular area and take a look. How is your VA rated? There's a rating system from 1 to 5. Now, we're here in Atlanta. Herman, what's our number? What number? Our number is 1, which is the lowest here in the Atlanta area, which is one of the largest in the United States.
Yeah, the regional hospital here in Atlanta, I mean, they just terminated the medical director. It's been... I've been following this about, 6 years now, and the regional VA in Atlanta is one of the lowest rating one in a lot of categories. And we talked about Anthony and I and Gus. We talked about the culture in the VA, and you need to change that. And we had some VA secretaries that attempted, but it's, as they say, with the big ship, you can't turn it on a dime.
What needs to get out of VA is the politics.
Absolutely.
Too much politics in VA. And too many people trying to self-serve, and not necessarily working towards the promise that was made to the veterans of, giving the veterans, the orphans, and the widows, what they deserve, what the country, offer them. The country promised them, when they went to war for the country. Too much politics.
Well, I'd like to just double back just for a minute when we talked about what is a leg worth. And I think when I said that, I was primarily talking about if you ask a veteran.
Right.
But You're absolutely correct. We do have standards as to what a leg is worth, what the arm is worth. After the Vietnam War, I remember looking at television, and they was arguing, if the veteran is amputated below the knee, he would get $50 a month.
Yeah.
If he's amputated above the knee, he got a whopping $75.
Yeah, you know.
I'm saying, get out of here.
Yeah.
I don't want to be amputated at all.
At all.
Exactly.
And I see us many times, and I think what all of us are saying, we're not kicking it. We're talking about the service and the things that are underneath, things that people really don't see. But in many cases, we are impotent as it comes to providing effective services to our veterans. And I agree that a lot of the politics are in there too. And we are operating from a top-down decision-making instead of bottom-up. Let's go to the people who's going to get the services, and they will tell you exactly
what they need.
It's not a secret.
Yeah.
Now, will we implement it? No, because we have to go through so many layers here, and by the time the top make a decision, it's nothing as compared to what the bottom people have said.
And the problem is that the decision makers, the ones that are making the decisions that will affect those that have served, are people that have never served.
Never.
You know, people that don't have any idea what you went through.
You need to stop talking about 45. You don't need to do that.
People that have no idea what you went through.
We don't need to go there. But
People that have no idea whatsoever.
Oh, yeah.
What being in a rice paddy field or back in the desert or wherever you were, you know, feels like. They're sitting in their comfortable air-conditioned rooms making decisions, or in Mar-a-Lago somewhere, because they're friends of 45, and they have not been selected to be, you know, the director of anything, but they are making decisions about soldiers that are fighting right now.
Well, you know, you're talking about the top down.
Yeah.
And I mean, I may be stepping out there too far, but we always tell the truths here. We have a senator, deceased senator, who was a Vietnam POW for 6 years.
A war hero.
A war hero, and had enough intestinal fortitude to come back and get into politics to make change. And for him to be, you know, already passed on, that the nation moaned his death and considered him a hero, and we have the person in the Oval Office talking about him as though he's a disgrace.
Yeah.
And to me, that is the most unconscionable act of someone in a leadership role, our commander-in-chief, who is over the military and everything that we do, and has not any sensitivities to what that private has to deal with, on up through the ranks, and even to the point that he says, I know more than the general officers on my Joint Chief of Staff, and he's never even put on a boot.
And to go and talk ill about a military hero at a military base.
Let me say one thing.
Yeah.
Well, you want to calm us down?
Yeah.
Okay.
This may be
This is just your area, right?
this may be our last podcast. Maybe the last one. The thing I like about the guys around the table, we're speaking truth.
We're telling the truth.
We're telling the truth. It's nothing out of the ordinary.
No.
It's factual. It's truthful, etc. And I agree. We get upset, I think, because we have experienced it. We get upset because maybe those individuals who are making those decisions, they are insensitive to some degree, I'm not saying all, to those needs. If it was their son, if they had served, if they had lost a leg, if they had to go through all this, then I think the decision making would have been different. I'm going to say this and I turn it back over. I saw a special, and they was asking individuals in power, you know, about individuals going to war, and he was saying every American, should serve the country, da 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 da. And he said, I'm glad that you agree to that because we want you to sign this petition where your son can go to Iraq.
Exactly.
And he said, wait a minute, no.
No. That's not what I'm talking about.
No, I'm talking the other people.
Exactly.
And he said, my son cannot go because his wife just had a child. And so the guy said, what about all the other veterans whose wife
had just had a child?
Yeah. So
Well, it's. I'm sorry, Herman. You had something.
Go ahead.
Well, it's the insensitivity of the leadership. It's the insensitivity of the Congress. For those, many have not served, but they're in the decision making in regards to those that serve. The thing that's so impressive with me in regards to you is that even though you got out of the military and went through that transitional period, you were so afraid of mom and dying that you went on and did something else. And now you're helping veterans. You're all over the country. You're providing adequate training. Expound on what are you doing now to help veterans?
Okay, so after I could not fly anymore, I opened my own drug treatment center. And with the drug treatment center itself, we tried to place some emphasis on the veterans. Believe it or not, I could not understand the complexity of obtaining monies, in order to provide. So what we did, we just set up some free stuff, services for the veterans. And this is what really confused me. When we tried to coordinate, of course, with the VA, they indicated that the veterans couldn't come to us because of the services that they provided them, but we were it's free. We just want to augment you guys. We understand that you're overloaded already, so we could just take your overflow. We are specialists in the area of PTSD, depression, and things of that type, but we could not service them because of that. So now we still, when I did have my center, we serviced those individuals who was afflicted with substance use, mental illnesses, etc. And what Akins is talking about, I sold my center about 3 years ago, people, and that's why I am where I am today.
Chilling, winning, and
chilling.
building.
There's less pressure, but my heart has always been with the veterans, and every time I have the opportunity to say something, I have to, of course, like the rest of the guys here, sort of calm ourselves because we realize the situation, and it's not getting any better.
One point that you made is, because I have a nonprofit to help veterans, is resources. You apply for grants, you go through different situations to acquire resources so you can serve the veteran. And the VA is overflowing, but any grant or anything you apply for, there's red tape and it never happens. In the meantime, people are suffering. So those are some of the things that you deal with when you're trying to help veterans.
Absolutely.
It's like the system is so messed up. It's like the October Madness.
Oh yeah,
in the military.
Correct.
That you get so good at managing your money that when October comes, you have some money left, and the Congress tells you, because you have some money left, we're not going to give you the same amount. We are going to reduce your amount. So in order for you to get the same amount that you got last year, you need to just pilfer the money that you got. If you have $100 million left, in a month you spend $100 million so you can get the $500 million that you were going to get, for the year.
Right.
Instead of saying, since you are, getting so much better at managing your money, we're going to give you the same money. So it will come to a point where we won't have to give you so much money, but for now, we're going to continue giving you the same amount of money. and let you do whatever you need to do. And when you get to a certain point, we'll just reduce your amount.
Yeah.
There's no incentive.
There is no incentive
for efficiency.
Exactly.
No.
There's incentive for waste.
Exactly.
Right.
No incentive for efficiency. So,
Nope.
as you said, what you start doing is wasting
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
instead of being efficient.
You know.
Well, let me ask you, what kind of advice can you give to our listeners? Let's say there's a family and there's a veteran in that family, and that veteran is struggling with something, PTSD, alcoholism, whatever. Can you give any words of encouragement to family members of what they could do to assist that veteran to get the help that he or she may need?
You know, I have been out of the field for a couple of years. The only thing I would say is look at, try to get resource centers, people who are providing private care for the individuals. Go to the VA. Now, the VA, we do have a lot of resources, so that's a good starting point, I think, for the VA. The thing that we have to do also is not only help the veteran, but the family
Right.
and that system around him.
Right, the caregivers.
The caregivers, the kids, the wife, the mothers.
The support system.
You're right. This thing affects everybody. It's not just one person, it's multiples of individuals. And we are, I think, so far behind the power curve here. We are more reactive than proactive. We wait until the situation happens and then we go in and try to solve it. So by the time we sort of get our hands around it, guess what? We have another issue. I don't see us, and I may be wrong, but I don't see us being proactive, projecting down the line. We're getting a little better at it, and I think it's because we're being forced to get better.
Are you seeing an increased number of females suffering from PTSD or some type of sexual harassment or sexual trauma in your consulting practice?
What we're seeing here, I think we already had the situation existing. The problem now is being more exposed. People are coming out. They are feeling freer to talk about the situation, but the situation, I think, always existed with us. I think there are some changes, especially for our females and substance users. We're trying to get away from the stigma. Now we have those individuals who are in the LGBTQ community who are coming into play, who are now, when they were accepted into the military. So this thing is becoming very complex, and I don't think we are ready. We're ready to make that full commitment to all individuals who have served. Be it LGBT community, be it our females, be it minorities. I gave a speech and I say we all went to the same war for the same reason in the same foxholes. So we should get the same service.
Exactly.
That's a very interesting comment in regards to all serving the same foxhole, because remember that we went through the don't ask, don't tell deal.
Yeah.
You know, under President Clinton. And then there was a change when President Trump came on board. Who knows, in the 26 years that I served and the years that you served and Gustav and Herman served, we may have had that person right next to us and never would have known it.
Never would have known.
But that person was performing because we're trying to protect each other's back.
I think also as we look at race as it relates to the military, I think it's just a reflection of society. People try to separate the two, but it is a reflection of society.
Exactly.
When I was in the military, and I told you about the culture shock and that I was usually the only one. I was the only black in my helicopter class. I was the only black in my fixed-wing jet conversion class. And you know how we are. I did have a little chip on my shoulder and stuff like that, being an only, but it was a shocker. And I never forget when I went to jet training, I walked into the class, and it was 6 of us, and I was the only one of color. My instructor told me, say the odds of you graduating is slim because 100% of blacks in the previous class failed. Now that was a shocker.
Yeah.
But wait a minute. This is what happened. The black instructor came to me, told me to ask how many was in the other class.
Yeah.
1. And so, yes, it was 100.
Of course,
yeah.
And so my attitude when I went to class, I asked everyone in the class, do you want to give me the Distinguished Graduate trophy now? Or do you want to wait 9 months and give it to me?
Or you want to wait until
I had that type of attitude, and sure enough, when we finished, I did get the Distinguished Graduate. But why should you have to have that? Why can't you just compete? I did have mentors, and as you know, the mentors, we usually don't have the people to be able to talk to.
Right.
There are situations that occur in the military. A couple of mentors that I had, Frank Todd. Frank probably didn't even know I was going to mention that, nor a mentor, but it wasn't what he said, is the way that he carried himself. That was very important, and many other mentors that I had to look up to.
Well, that's very interesting. I'm sorry, Herman, but that's very interesting. I know the times that I used to visit you down in Ramstein, and when I was in Frankfurt, and the nucleus of people that was around you in the Air Force, and there was one in particular that drew my attention when you talk about leadership and how you were, in the flight examiner, etc. But we also had another Tuskegean who was down there at the same time, who eventually became like a Top Gun pilot and was the test pilot, for the F-15 in Bitburg.
Right, Dick Tolliver.
Dick Tolliver.
If you was in the Air Force and you flew, black, white,
you knew
green,
Dick Tolliver.
Polka dot, you knew Dick Tolliver. Very assertive, very aggressive. Dick life changed when he became spiritual and gave his life over to God. And it was a total switch. I couldn't understand. Wait a minute, this guy's the top guy. And he made that change. That was another one of my mentors, one of the first black. And Dick used to always tell me, don't strive to be the best black pilot.
Exactly.
Try to be the best
pilot.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's what he did. First one to fly F-15s in the first class of F-15s.
Right.
Very sharp guy, not only in the flying category, but also in management and things of this type. F4, Dick used to tell me he said he had to pray about it because he used to go to the school, something like a Top Gun school out at Nellis
in Nevada.
And he was flying F4s, and he knew he was better than everybody else, including the instructors. And he used to go head to head with the instructors and beat them down. He said he used to just beat people down in the dirt flying, but he had to make a change.
Right.
So I learned so much from him and many other people.
He should have been a general officer. Racism in the military played a major part. His assertiveness and believing in himself stopped him.
Yeah.
But a lot of folks don't know when Ross Perot was doing his thing for president, who did he pick? Dick Tolliver to be his front man, because he knew Dick Tolliver had the strength, the intelligence, the integrity, his religious belief, and that coincided with him. And we know him very well.
Right.
Recently, he was inducted into the Tuskegee University Military Hall of Fame, and also into the State of Arizona Hall of Fame as a top pilot. So, that kind of thing is just tremendous. That you had those kind of mentors.
And I appreciate our HBCUs. If you look at it, they have been the backbone of many of our military officers, Army, Air Force, Navy, etc. I think we have moved away from them when our kids don't understand. I know I'm digressing a little bit, but our kids don't understand the power of those schools. And if it was not for those schools, we probably would not be here today.
Well, just think about when we were in school, Air Force ROTC, and you go back to 1945 when the president's wife, Eleanor Roosevelt, came to Tuskegee Institute, and the birth of the Tuskegee Airmen actually started with an instructor at Tuskegee by the name of Chief Anderson. And if you take a look at it, Chief Anderson taught many students how to fly, Dick Tolliver being one of them, and then Chappie James, another. So the history is rich, is very strong, and we both matriculated at Tuskegee, both went through the ROTC program, and to me, I'm just so proud, and I'm sure my friends here are so proud to hear your story, and our listeners to hear it.
You mentioned those two individuals. You're absolutely right, among many more. But Chappie James, Dick Tolliver, and I also like to place my name in there too, along with Chief trained me also. Chief was something else. Anybody who went through the flight program at Tuskegee,
correct,
knew Chief Anderson.
Well, folks, we've just been thrilled today to have my close friend, my fraternity brother, my line brother, who has shared his life story with us and just given us some insights. I learned some things about you today too that I didn't read.
I figured I was going to.
You threw down on me, and I thought I knew a lot of stuff about you, but it's just thrilling. So, if you had any wisdom for a young student today that has a desire to get into the Air Force and be a pilot, what would you tell them?
I would say the first thing is follow your dreams. Have yourself a good mentor. You're going to have to study hard. Don't accept being mediocre. Don't fall back on the fact that I am black and I can't make it. Self-doubting yourself. Look to be, as Dick said, just the best. Now, will you succeed in everything? No. But anytime you do not succeed, then we look at other avenues. That's a learning experience.
That's true.
And we look at a lot of people in the military. General Alston, 4-star general with the Army. We look and think that, 4 stars just popped up.
No.
He had to go through a lot. So I usually sometimes talk to him when he was a colonel at Fort Bragg, and he would tell me some of the things he had to go through. And you're looking at a West Point graduate, great-great-grandfather, first black to graduate from West. All this, I thought he had it made until we sat down and talked and found out that it was a struggle for him also. So I would say keep pushing, go to school, watch out who surrounds you.
Exactly.
Surround yourself with positive people, not negative people, and move forward.
And believe in you.
Believe in you.
Believe in you. Folks, we've just been entertained today. We've just had a tremendous show. Any parting words?
For me, no parting words. Time for me to leave, and I've enjoyed the States, but it is time to go.
Time to go and chill.
Time to go and chill. But I have just been enlightened. I'm just thankful for this opportunity especially when we talk about veterans, especially when we are surrounded and able to talk freely about a program for the program that you all have, and to go off a little bit on the outside. But when we went to the outside, it was the truth. And I think the truth is what we need. So I'm just happy.
Well, we always enjoy another veterans as part of the group, because when we have veterans, we talk with veteran talk. We also include, like you mentioned, mentoring. And mentoring is important in corporate America too. It's important everywhere you go. So as you said earlier, what you learn in the military, I only stayed in the Air Force 4 years, got out, went to work for AT&T. But what I learned there helped me survive.
Absolutely.
And with that, we're going to take a break so you can head back to your enjoyment.
Absolutely.
This is Veteran Today.
We got a call. We got a call coming in.
Good afternoon.
Okay, we'll take the call when we come back from a break.
I can wait around.
Hello.
Take us a break.
Okay.
Okay.
This is Veterans Today. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back and wrap it up. We thank Mr. Wallace L. Jones for being our guest, and hopefully he will keep listening to us and spread the word.
And spread the word back in the DR.
Okay. We'll be right back. Thank you.